Hey Siri, what's on my calendar for today?
Today, you have the 5EP podcast. Would you like to keep it on your calendar?
5EP? Yeah! Welcome to the 5EP podcast. Interviews and conversations to guide the genesis of personal development. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and social. The 5 pillars of living a 5 life. On now with your host, Alex Petrowski. Welcome to yet another episode of the 5EP podcast. Today, I have Agnes Chow, a transformational life coach, private consultant, the founder and president of nonprofit Empowered Circle, and a certified Psych-K facilitator. So welcome, Agnes. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Alex. Super excited to be on your show.
Likewise. I want to get right into it with my first question. When one is navigating the constant change that happens within every human life, how can tapping into divine intelligence guide them on the right path forward?
Absolutely. When we tap into our divine intelligence, this is connecting with our higher selves, that part of us that is connected with divine source. And this can provide the guidance that we need that aligns with our divine paths. And it is that 24/7 counselor that we have access to that has our backs always. And the way to do it is really breathing into our divine hearts and feeling that loving energy in our divine hearts. And this can also bring us to a place of peace, creating that peace within ourselves. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of different voices. Could be our ego minds. It could be our inner child. It could be all the different archetypes playing out. And it's when we breathe into our divine hearts, we can access that higher intelligence, that divine intelligence, which is our higher selves, which is also known as a superconscious, that can provide the needed guidance. I mean, every voice that we may hear, ego mind or inner child or archetypes, they all have their roles. However, it's our higher selves that provides the overall loving guidance that we need in some critical times in our lives. And in fact, it's great to nurture this loving relationship on a daily basis.
Beautifully put. And for the younger generation, what are some daily modalities that they can do on their own to tap into their own divine intelligence?
So I have a few recommendations, one of which is to engage in meditation. And there's different forms of meditation. It's not always about just sitting still and having that blank slate. I know for myself, it was challenging initially to actually sit still. So I started with Qigong exercises. And Qigong is a slower form of Tai Chi, and I call it moving meditation. And there's one Qigong move that is actually a posture that can be done sitting or standing, and it's the horse riding stance. This is where your legs are about hip width distance apart, and you're grounded with Mother Earth, and your hands are just in front of you, palms facing towards you. Can be done sitting or standing. And I like to breathe into my heart as I'm doing this. And this particular position, this posture, can actually boost one's immune system. It can develop strength in the body, and it can bring that necessary peace within that will help calm our amygdalas, which is the fight, flight, freeze, faint response that we have. and bring that necessary oxygen into our amygdala to create that calm state of mind. And when we breathe into our hearts as we're doing this, we can then tap into that divine intelligence within us and ask the questions: am I aligned with my divine path? How else should I proceed? So this is one of the meditation methods that I like to engage in. I also like to engage in transcendental meditation, which has also been known to help with creativity by activating the alpha brainwaves. And I also like to do slow moving Qigong movements as well. One of the things that I find really helpful is to take the back of one's hand and tap the lower back. Not only are you giving yourself a nice little massage, you're also letting go of any fear-based emotions, because the kidneys are stored in this region, and the kidneys store both fear and caution. And when we have an excess of fear, that can be debilitating. And so by tapping our lower backs, we're also empowering our kidneys and transforming that fear into caution.
The power of the posture. I know when you're getting ready for, let's say, a big meeting or a performance or something along those lines, I've been told to make myself as big as possible in the mirror and things like that. One other way, like you had mentioned, is to calm the body and transition into the rest and digest mode, which can also be done through posture, which is often overlooked because a lot of people will think to themselves in their mind and say, how can I flick the switch? And what they don't realize a lot of times is that their physical body, their physical movements are connected to that part of themselves inside the brain. So I love that you brought about posture. I know that there is other techniques as well. Divine heart journaling is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done divine heart journaling together previously, and it is powerful to the point of when you surrender and accept, you really receive the guidance that you need. Yet many people that I have come into contact with, they have a feeling that what they're doing right now in their lives is getting them through short term, but it doesn't really serve them in the long term. What advice would you have for somebody who really needs to foster that acceptance to say, hey, I really need to look deep within me and follow my divine path instead of just getting over the hump every single time using all these short-term measures?
Right, right. So I'm so glad you brought up divine heart journaling. And it is something that I like to engage in on a regular basis. And so with divine heart journaling, I ask my divine self, my higher self, questions such as, am I aligned with my divine path? What is the best method to proceed? How should I proceed? What am I to learn from this experience? No, I say every challenge is really an opportunity in disguise. And it's a matter of realizing that there are opportunities in every challenge. And so when we breathe into our hearts and ask for that guidance, and the best way to do this is through divine heart journaling, because when I direct the questions to my higher self, and sometimes I also direct the question to the Holy Spirit or God, or even creator of all. And so when I direct these questions, I allow whatever comes to mind to flow. So I write down everything that comes to mind, and I don't question it until I let that thought stream flow through me. And then afterwards, when I read it, I recognize there's a higher intelligence at work. And because I don't normally write that way. And for some people, they may receive images. For others, it's an inner knowing. whatever it may be, trust that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And some of those challenges that we go through are actually opportunities to grow. And it may be to grow in our daily lives, and it may also be spiritual growth as well.
I love that. When you fully accept and surrender, you're then able to really tap into, while it may be hard, what you need to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And I say hard, it's usually harder than you would like it to be. And also, anything worth doing is not going to be easy. So when you tap into your divine path and your divine intelligence, you're going to go on a journey of growth and transformation, which pushes you out of your comfort zone. But in order to really reach the next level, you're not going to be fully qualified for it. And you have to take that step of uncertainty. And I've just realized through my journey and my transformations that knowing I have that within me, it really eases the anxiety and allows me to step in with my full self. So I, along with Agnes, highly recommend divine heart journaling along with the meditation to center yourself and ground yourself in what you really need to be doing right now. And with that, many young adults and many people in the younger generation will struggle at times with everything is happening to me and be stuck in this victim mentality where they don't realize how powerful their minds are and how their external reality is mirroring their internal reality. And you have an excellent triangle. I think it's called the TED triangle, that you took from TED Talk and you implemented it to help your clients become the hero in their own journey and also be able to do it without being rescued along the way, be able to rescue themselves with the guidance of whoever their guides may be. I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
Yes. So years ago, I read a very powerful book called The Power of TED, and it's written by David Emerald. I've summarized the main contents of this book in my article, The Power of Choice, Drama or Empowerment. So in our daily lives, the dreaded drama triangle plays out in so many areas, and it has the roles of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And the first step is awareness that we're caught up in those dreaded drama triangles. And even if we self-assign ourselves the roles of victim or rescuer, the fact is that we may end up playing all three roles. And so it's important to be aware when we were caught up in that dreaded drama triangle and to recognize that there is an antidote. And the antidote is the empowerment dynamic with the roles of creator, coach, and challenger. And so the creator is the antidote to the victim mentality. And the shift happens when we ask ourselves, what is the outcome I want? What is the outcome I want? And then to shift from persecutor to challenger, one asks the question, what is my intent? What is the other person's intent? And if we're not sure, we can ask the other person, please help me understand, what is your intention here? Because this is how I'm feeling. And then when one is trying to convey a message, however, they're not being received in the way that they expect to be, then start with, here's my intention. And then to shift from rescuer to coach, one asks, how is the other person capable? How am I capable? And recognizing that we are all connected with divine source, and however you want to refer to divine source, whether it's God, whether it's creator of all, and recognizing that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, and to recognize that whatever challenges we may be going through in life, there are lessons to be learned. And by breathing into our hearts and tapping to that divine intelligence within, we can ask, what are those lessons that we are to learn? And so the power comes in knowing that we have the freedom of choice. One day I woke up and I saw for every situation that I was in, both the drama story and the empowerment story. And the power came in knowing that I had a choice which storyline I wanted to proceed with. And the fact is that there is a lot of drama playing out, and we just need to turn on the TV and drama stories abound. And so sometimes we need more of the empowerment stories in order to have that balance between the two.
I love how you interwove curiosity with the power of choice, because at first glance, a lot of the negative experiences people go through may seem only negative until they really dissect it and start asking questions. Because when you ask questions, like you said, you uncover the intent, and intentional living really is how you manifest what you desire in life. And with that, many people know of the clarity that goes along with manifesting. When you envision something, you have to be really clear about it and describe it in as minute detail as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're done with that, though, what people forget to do is they forget to go on with their lives with intention, go into these circumstances with that intention in mind. I'd love for you to expand on the importance of intention and how that can really bring about the manifestations that you desire.
Yes, that's a really insightful question. So, with respect to intention, this is where it's really about recognizing that we are the creators of the lives we want to live, rather than being the victim of circumstances. And this goes back to what you had mentioned earlier about how our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. And so if we don't like what we see, this is the time to reflect upon and do that introspection and contemplation about what it is that we do want instead. And so one of the modalities that I apply is Psych K, PSYCH-K. And it is one of the most powerful ways to remove self-sabotage and align our conscious minds and our subconscious minds with the goals that we have in life. And so with respect to Psyche, one sets the intention of the goals that one wants to achieve or to embody. So for example, in the core beliefs balance in Psyche, there's 13 pairs of statements, and it's really to create the foundation for success. It's to remove the old subconscious programs that no longer serve us. And so one of the most powerful statements is, I am worthy of the best that life and love have to offer. And when we align our subconscious minds, that supercomputer within us, with this conscious mind goal, then we set the foundation for success. We still need to take the necessary actions. However, we are removing any self-sabotage that may be in the way. And so this is all about intentional living. And I'm so glad you're very insightful in asking this question and asking me to elaborate upon it.
Well, I have another follow-up question based off that. And I know with daily affirmations, people tend to use them in the morning or use them at certain times throughout the day. Although you even have something even more powerful that goes off of Dr. Daniel Amen's his negative thoughts. You have a way to move past that and really customize your affirmations depending upon what thoughts may arise and these thoughts that aren't serving you, so you can transform them into thoughts that do serve you and live the life you want to live. So I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
Yes, yes. So, Dr. Daniel Amen, who is also known as a brain health doctor, he talks about the 9 ants, the negative, automatic negative thoughts, those intrusive, pesky negative thoughts that just pop up in our minds. And he talks about killing the ants. So identifying what the ants are and then stomping on them and killing them. And I recognize not everybody's comfortable with stomping and killing ants. And so the alternative is to transform those ants, transform the automatic negative thoughts into automatic nurturing thoughts. So this is important with respect to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind, that supercomputer, is not distinguishing between right or wrong. It's literally a computer, and it's just absorbing everything. So when we say something negative to ourselves, or when we feel something negative, it's important to say cancel, 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 and reframe it. So for example, I don't like my body. Add the word yet. So cancel, cancel, cancel. I may not like my body yet. However, I am nurturing my body in healthy ways. So there's this reframe. And so we may say, okay, I may experience some jealousy of someone. Well, you can transform that jealousy into progress for yourself. So everything is energy. And our conditions, situations are all based on belief systems, mostly subconscious. And if we can transform those beliefs, we can change the conditions or situations. And so when we talk about belief systems and changing our belief systems, well, we can attempt to change it at the conscious level. However, it's really deep seated, then we need to address that at the subconscious level as well. And so it's important to align the subconscious with the conscious mind. And so with respect to the automatic negative thoughts, so often we're comparing ourselves to somebody else. When really, when we breathe into our hearts and we know what our own calling is, then that's our duty to ourselves, is to align with our own life's purpose, to align with our own divine path, because that's the gift that we each have to offer to the world. And so even in Qigong exercises, there's an exercise called drawing the sword. And it's about transforming any jealousy into progress for oneself. And so there's, well, we can elaborate on the different types of ants and labeling them. And I have an article that can be found on my website, and it's called What to Do About the Ants. And I give examples of how to transmute those automatic negative thoughts into automatic nurturing thoughts. And the key is to recognize that you can reframe any situation from the drama story to an empowerment story.
One thing I want to highlight with these reframing exercises is they really bring up small wins, that when you reframe these things and you say, yet, and I am nurturing my body, or when you use the Qigong exercise and you draw the sword and you allow yourself to have these small wins, they form into positive momentum. And I've had a couple of past speakers on this podcast, one of them talking about the importance of small wins, and the other in his recovery from a brutal burning accident. He talked about the power of positive momentum and that you need to just let yourself go and ride that thing. So when you are having all the ants pop up and you reframe them inside of your mind to give yourself small wins along the way, you're mentally rewarding yourself for the progress that you're making. And Rome wasn't built in a single day. So you're never going to make massive change in one day. Your body can't handle massive change in one day. It would be scrambled all over the place. So as you transform into the person you desire to be, it's super important to highlight those small wins. And I love those different techniques that you highlighted for the 5EP community. And with that, I want to delve into energy a bit more. And with all these different techniques, there may be times where people will say, I don't know what it is, but I really feel like life is really happening to me. And I don't know why I feel stuck in this situation. I feel almost as if there's this negative energy that's like holding me down to the ground. And you've brought up with me a great exercise to allow that negative energy that you've picked up from other sources that aren't you and that are not serving you. The technique that you gave me allowed me to release from those and allow those to transmute within the earth into positive energy. So I'd love for you to elaborate on that technique.
Okay, wonderful. So I believe we did the waterfall shower meditation. And this is where you can envision yourself standing underneath the waterfall and allowing the water to wash away any stresses, any negative emotions, any anxieties that no longer serve you. You can allow that water to wash off any stresses, emotions, or anxieties that you may have picked up from other people or from your environment. And allowing that water, that cleansing water, to wash off all these stresses, anxieties, emotions, negative thoughts that really are no longer something that serves you, and letting it all go to Mother Earth. And Mother Earth can transmute that energy into what she needs to heal the earth. And so some days I will actually envision myself standing underneath Niagara Falls and letting that deluge of water wash over me, and it's refreshing. And then, sometimes we have certain thoughts and you go, where on earth did that thought come from? Did I pick up that thought from somebody else? And if I did, and it's not serving me, then it's time to let that go. And whether you do the waterfall shower or another meditation is the violet flame, and invoking the violet flame to transmute the negative energy into positive energy. And the violet flame is protected by Holy Archangel Michael and Holy Saint Germain. And it can be used for any situation, any condition, to help transmute that negative energy. And so between the waterfall shower, which I like to invoke even when I'm sitting in traffic, especially when I'm sitting in traffic, and I go, okay, waterfall shower right now. and then I feel a sense of peace. And sometimes I invoke the violet flame, and that also provides a sense of peace and calm from within.
I love that. I want to give our audience a bit of a background on vibration and frequencies. Would you be able to describe those two terms in simple terms to really give them something to go off of during our talk?
Absolutely. So everything is energy and everything vibrates. So our thoughts, our emotions also have certain frequencies with them. So when everything is energy and everything vibrates, And sometimes when we're not feeling well, we may just need to tune into frequencies for well-being. And so I like to apply like the 5 senses to do this. So for example, the color violet, visualizing the color violet. Violet represents the highest frequency in the visible light spectrum. So it can transmute any negative energy to positive energy. Hearing, listening to sound healing music. Then we can tune into like solfeggio frequencies, binaural beats. These sound healing frequencies and music also have certain vibrations, and we can tune into that even for better sleep. And then with respect to taste, this is where it's important to get the necessary nutrients primarily through the foods that we eat. And when we eat higher vibrational foods, such as fruits and vegetables, then that gives us more energy, more vibrancy. And then with respect to smells, if we smell flowers or essential oils, that also increases our vibrancy because they are vibrating at a higher frequency. And what else did I touch? Hearing, smells, touch, taste. So with respect to touch, so our ears, our hands, and our feet and our spine are connected to every part of our body. So when we're feeling a bit of anxiety, we can actually give ourselves a little hand massage. This web between our thumb and index finger, this is a good spot to massage to relieve any anxiety or stresses that we may have. And by giving yourself an overall hand massage or foot massage, you're actually stimulating that connection between the brain and the body. And that communication is always happening. And so now you're tuning your entire body and your brain into frequencies for well-being. And so vibration, energy, this is where when we transform our belief systems, we can change those conditions because E equals MC squared. Energy equals matter times speed of light squared. So this is saying, hey, everything is that is matter is also energy and light. And we can, whether we pray or we set the positive intentions and we tune into these frequencies for well-being by tuning into our 5 senses, this is where we can really transform our outer lives to reflect our inner lives. And by doing that inner work, we can improve our lives and be the creators of our lives.
There's this saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I believe that's so true throughout everybody's entire life. And that when they're ready for the next level, they may lose a few people along the path to a different level when they need other people in their life to help bring them up on their divine path. They may lose a few people that are going on to different paths in their lives, especially at transitory stages, especially when young adults go through college and they leave college, going to their first job, going to become entrepreneurs, what have you. What advice would you give to those that haven't dealt with this very much in life and all of a sudden are thrust into these decisions where they really feel going down this path is best for them, but by going down this path, a few of the people that were in their circle are no longer going to be in their circle and are going to go on to different paths? What advice would you give to them to really help make this a bit easier of a transition?
Yes, that is such a powerful question. So I will tell you that not everybody is ready to follow this path with you. And this is because you may be ready to embrace that higher vibrational energy, that love energy. And this is where we have compassion for ourselves and have compassion for others. Never underestimate that you're also planting a seed. While some people may not be ready to take that next step with you, recognize that you're a way shower and you're planting a seed that may hopefully germinate for them when they're ready. And to recognize that throughout your lives, you are going to meet a lot of people who are going to help you on your journey. Yes, sometimes the people that you meet may not necessarily appear the way you expect them to appear. Recognize that there is a lesson to be learned with different people that we engage with. And so this is where we breathe into our hearts and ask our divine selves, our higher selves, how should I proceed? What can I do to help this individual, if anything? And sometimes it may be to live your own life, to demonstrate that you can live an empowered life. And that will be the example that they need to see.
I love that. There's so much energy that can interfere with your progress when you're just talking to everybody about all these things that you're doing instead of actually being the example for them to look at and aspire to be. And with that, we know when we are endeavoring in really anything in life, there's certain boundaries that we have to place in order for negative energy not to interfere in a drastic way with what we're doing. What's your advice for people that say yes to everything, that are very inviting to all people all the time to an extreme degree, and really need to pull up these boundaries to allow them to be fully present with their own path and not affected by all this external energy?
Right, right. So this is all about establishing those healthy boundaries for yourself. And in order to be of service to others, we also need to be of service to ourselves. And this is where it's important to establish and recognize what those healthy boundaries are from a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual perspective. And when it comes to establishing those healthy boundaries for ourselves, it may mean saying no sometimes. And this is where you put your self care first. It's like putting on that oxygen mask for yourself first before putting it on for others.
It's a great
And
analogy.
this is, yes. And so this is where it's important to recognize, okay, let me replenish my own energy so then I can be of greater service to others. And whether that self care involves listening to some sound healing music, whether it involves doing some Qigong exercises or yoga exercises, and taking that time for yourself so you can recharge, then you can come from a clear state of mind and recognize, okay, why am I doing what I am doing? Is it to boost my ego, or is it to come from a higher place where I can truly live my life's purpose and come from a place of peace? Because if I can create peace from within me, then others people will sense that energy and they will feel peaceful and calm. And that in and of itself is even more powerful than feeling like you have to constantly do. So this is about really being and being at a state of peace and calm.
I love that, stepping into your own being and not feeling as though you have to do for everybody that's in your life, because we all wake up with a certain amount of energy each day, and it'll accumulate when we go to bed and we have such a severe deficit each day. It will accumulate in how we show up for other people and not just our own health. So with that, when somebody has taken that into account and they've really focused on their self-care and they have that down, at least for the time being, how can they hold sacred space for either family members, for friends, for even coworkers, and helping them go along their path and just being somebody who can hold that space for them as they go through their different challenges?
Yes. So holding sacred space is a term that we use in Psych K, where when we hold sacred space for others, this is where we allow their wisdom to come through. And what I like to do is envision a white dome, and a white dome around myself. And I encourage others to envision a white dome around themselves. I like to activate the violet flame to transmute any negative energies to positive energies in the environment and create a place of safety and peace. And by breathing into my heart and asking my higher self for that guidance. And I also will invite Creator of All to help with creating that sacred space so that people feel that they can also breathe into their hearts and tap into their own higher selves so that they can allow that wisdom to come through. And this is a departure from the hustle and bustle of everyday living. And it's actually giving ourselves permission to create that peace in our environment and within us.
With all the talk about different colors that people can channel, I'd love for you to elaborate on the meaning behind certain colors and which ones that can be most beneficial.
Okay, so I would align it with the different chakras. So the color green is associated with the heart chakra. And it's also associated with Holy Archangel Raphael for healing energies. So when I work with a client who has some physical ailments, I always invite Holy Archangel Raphael to assist, and with that loving green energy that also taps into our heart chakra, it creates that wonderful vibrancy and energy of healing. And then the violet flame color, which is highest frequency in the visible light spectrum, and that is associated with Holy Archangel Michael. And that color is also for protection as well as transmuting negative energies to positive energies. I like to envision the white dome because the color white or golden white light, it's like one can also envision like a sheet of paper. It's like everything just passes through that sheet of paper, and it doesn't, all the negative energies, it doesn't phase one. So kind of like that white dome, the golden white dome, it's whatever energies may be coming, it just passes through me and it doesn't affect me. And the color pink, Holy Angel Daniel is associated with color pink, and the color pink is to transmute and release any resentment that one may have. And the first time I had experienced this, I was at a retreat center, Kripalu, in Massachusetts. And I experienced a treatment called Healing with the Angels. And the facilitator guided her hands across my body. I was fully clothed. And I described to her that I was seeing swirls of pink light. And she said, "Oh, that's Holy Angel Daniel helping you remove your resentment." I didn't even realize I had resentment, but I will tell you, after that session, I felt that energetic release. And so one can invite Holy Angel Daniel into one's life to help remove any resentment. And by releasing these negative energies from our bodies, we can feel more alive. We can feel more vibrancy, and we can have a more positive outlook in our lives.
100%. And resentment, I know from all the books that I've read and all the experiences I've had, is one of the single worst things you could have held within you, because it festers and it causes some of the worst diseases known to mankind. And I'd love for you to expand on the power of forgiveness and really how to get over the hump and start releasing all of that negative energy that has you stuck in your past mindset.
Yes, yes. So the power of forgiveness. So I've actually written a couple of articles on this. One is about divine mercy and the gift of forgiveness. And divine mercy is Jesus Christ. And there's a beautiful portrait of Jesus with his heart flowing forth, water and blood signifying love and light. And the divine mercy is about forgiving ourselves. And so one can ask divine mercy to help us forgive ourselves and others for all the wrongs done to us. And so the power of forgiveness is really, I'd say, for ourselves more than anything else. It's an act of self-love and self-care. And so why do we forgive? Well, we forgive so that we can fully live in the present moment and not be held ransom by the past. And so it's also releasing any stresses from the body. I mean, when we experience physical ailments, it's our mental and emotional body saying it's time to let something go. And it shows up as a physical ailment. And there's a message from the body. And when we acknowledge that message, we can let go of that energy that no longer serves us. And so letting go of those stresses from the body, which are energy blockages in our meridians, it's really absolutely freeing. And then it prevents any dis-ease from taking hold. And so there's an article that I've written about the foundational reasons for forgiveness, and the article about divine mercy gives ideas about how to go about forgiving ourselves and to forgive others. And so forgiving ourselves, we can do it through Ho'oponopono as well, which is the Hawaiian mantra for forgiveness. And it starts with, "I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." Even if you haven't seen someone in decades and a memory surfaces where they did you wrong or you did them wrong, and you can say just telepathically to them, "I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." And what's even more powerful is when we say it to our inner child. "I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." And we may experience an energetic release in the form of tears. And it's important to let it flow and release any of those energies that no longer serve us.
It's so cool that you brought up Ho'opono, because I listened to Mary Isis and I know she has a song precisely with that name. And it's very much a releasing song, and the power of music and allowing you to tap into that mode where you can just release all these things that are pent up is so undervalued by many people in today. And I just would urge the community to tap into sound healing whenever possible, because you may not know it consciously, but subconsciously it's tapping into the releasing mode to allow you to let all that negative energy that's been holding you back pass through tears, through whatever that may be. And yeah, I just urge the community to invest their time into that, at least for a little bit each day.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to delve a little bit into your past, in that you used to be an engineering executive, and many people along their path may at times will say, I'm already at a top level in this field. Why should I start going down a different path? Why should I make the transition? And you were able to make the transition and become your true self. So I would love for you to elaborate on that part of your journey.
Yes. So I had a wonderful career in engineering, and I will tell you that it's always important to reinvent oneself every now and again. And by reinventing ourselves, we can have more fun in life. And also, this really means being open to learning. I love learning things. I'm a lifelong learner. And in the process, by learning new things, we can develop that cognitive reserve. And the cognitive reserve is the ability of the brain to bounce back faster when we have setbacks. And so recognize that whatever you do in life, you're building a foundation. So I reflected upon this just yesterday, where one of the first jobs that I had in engineering was to work with the electronic control units, which are the brains behind the gas turbine engines that enable flight to happen. And I would diagnose and fix problems with these electronic control units. Well, now I'm actually doing something similar. I'm helping people improve their brain health. And now I'm helping people get to the root of problems very quickly and identify the most efficient and effective method forward. And so, with respect to brain health, I do want to share that I have free brain health questionnaires on my website. And it's important to know how your thinking and feelings are connected with different parts of your brain, and to know that you can improve your brain health at any age. You can have a better memory as you age, and you can do various exercises to and tap into those five senses to make that happen.
And for the viewers that are audio only, her website is Agnes, Agnes, Chau, CHAULLC.com. And that's where you can find all of Agnes's resources. And with that, I would love for you to give advice to yourself at 18 to 25 years of age.
Ooh, okay. That's a good question. Don't believe everything you think, and have compassion for yourself. Just because someone says something doesn't make it true. And breathe into your heart to tap into that divine intelligence within to guide you on your journey.
Beautifully said. And before we leave, I want to highlight your career as an engineer and how it was really training for what you're doing right now. And you're not the only person who I've met that has gone through a complete career change, only to find out that their dream career that they're in right now, their former career was training in the most unusual way for that next chapter in their life. So when people believe that they're stuck in this position and that when they transition, they're going to lose all those years of their life, you are a prime example that, hey, while you weren't in the career of your dreams at that time, it was actually training for the career you are right now. And those years were not wasted whatsoever. So I wanted to highlight that before we leave and say thank you, Agnes. I thoroughly enjoyed this. And I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom for the 5EP community.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you in this community, and your questions are absolutely insightful. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. And this concludes another episode of the 5EP podcast. Have a great week, everybody. You've been listening to the 5EP podcast with Alex Petrowski. Interviews and conversations to guide the genesis of personal development. If you enjoyed the show, share it with friends and family and on your social media. And feel free to send us your feedback. Until next time, thank you for listening and live your 5 exclamation point life every day. Well, I think we covered absolutely everything we could cover.
We did cover a lot.
Yeah. Well, I love how the final stage of each question really set the foundation for the next one, because I knew when I asked you about your past experience as an engineer, I wanted to set that up for people that feel as though, hey, if I transition, I'm going to lose everything. That no, like if you transition to what you really believe in, what you want to be in life, you may find that there's some interesting correlations that when you learned this and that in that profession, it transitions very, very nicely to your current path, and that all those things that you learn were not wasted. So,
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is where, as an engineer, I love getting to the root cause of problems very quickly and finding the corrective solutions. And I realize with every client that I work with, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping them get to the root of their problems very quickly and helping them clear any blockages to the solutions so that they can move forward in life. And so it's very satisfying. And then I also recognize that throughout my career, I was always coaching people and mentoring people. Well, and now I'm doing the same. And then the other thing is that, we meet a lot of different personalities, and how to communicate and how to interact with those different personalities. I mean, that really serves us throughout our lives.
100%. And we actually have had another life coach on the show, and he was the one that I thought of when I asked the question, because he was in the bar business for years and he was one of the best at it. And he would always be that guy to where people would go and tell them all their stories, everything going on. And he would pretty much life coach them. And he's currently engaged, one of his past girlfriends. We were talking over the weekend, not this weekend, but the one previous. And she was telling me how she'd always tell him that, hey, I know you're in the bar business and you're great at it, but you should be a life coach. You really should be a life coach.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
He tells everybody that time in the bar business was training for what he loves to do right now. And that his current fiance is a certified life coach in somatic work and breath work and movement energy. And she gave him the verbiage that helped fine tune his natural ability that he got from being a bartender for so long. And yeah, it's so interesting. Our past professions, how they've really prepared us to become who we really want to be in life.
So. Absolutely. And, what better environment than a bar to encounter so many different, personalities and backgrounds, and to be able to relate to people. And this is where you also excel, where you have the interpersonal skills to connect with people and to create that space where you're approachable.
Yeah.
And I've recognized that throughout my career is when I create that safe space for others. And same thing with the bartender who turned into a life coach, he's creating that safe space for people where they are more willing to be open and more receptive. And so when we're creating the sacred space, the safe space, the psychological safety, and an environment that is conducive for others to be open and to explore. I mean, part of this is exploring what else besides what I know, and just expanding our worlds, expanding our minds. Yeah, and you know, in the process, we're picking up new skill sets all the time. I mean, I've learned a lot of my different modalities since like 2012, and it's being open to learning new things. And so having fun in on this journey and recognizing we don't have to take ourselves so seriously all the time. It's okay to have some fun.
Yeah. And it's okay to recharge as well, which was really funny because I was watching the intro video for Psyche over the weekend preparing for this, and Robert, I forget his last name, the guy that created Psyche,
Rob Williams.
Rob Williams, he brought up a Bruce Lipton quote, how nature is its own life coach. And that's exactly what the life coach who was a bartender previously always preaches. And he tells everybody that weekly he goes to Sedona over the weekend or whenever he can, being self-employed, and he recharges, goes through the vortex energies through there, and just grounding yourself and allowing the subtle energies of nature to revitalize yourself.
Absolutely.
It really is its own life coach. So I found that hilarious that I'm watching this video and that exact same quote by a guy who I don't even think this life coach even knows about said that, and how he's not copying the person in that he read it and he's using it himself. It's something that people will be drawn to on their own, being within nature, and that people keep coming up with that same conclusion that, hey, it's its own life coach. It can heal on its own. So
you know what? I completely agree with that. And I always talk to people about nature and getting out into nature, because that's the best way to stimulate your five senses. And nature to nurture, and nurture being ensuring that you get all the nutrients you need. So I actually came up with this acronym recently. It's BRAIN. B for belief systems, R for resiliency, A for an active lifestyle, both social, movement, physical, mental, and learning something new so that you're developing your cognitive reserve. I for the inner journey, breathing into your hearts, and N for nature to nurture. So really getting out into nature. And then we realize, oh, wait, you know, I've been like so narrow-minded, so focused on this thing. And then you go out in nature and you look around and you go, whoa. It's kind of like you're going on a hike and you're looking down, and then all of a sudden you stand up and go, wow, there's a whole world all around me. And just being amazed at the wonder of life. And then the nurture to nutrients. This is where it's so important to make sure that we get the nutrients we need, and recognizing that our bodies are craving for nutrients, not volume.
Yeah.
And so, I see that, you know, Bruce Lipton, he is a big proponent of Psyche, and he and Rob Williams are really good friends. And so it's very encouraging when people in my same mindset are tuned into the same frequency. We may say things slightly different. However, we're setting the same intentions. We're receiving the same similar content. And it's like tuning into that channel on the radio. Am I tuning into the comedy channel? Am I tuning into the drama triangle channel? Am I tuning into the receptivity of what life can be about channel? So yeah, I feel like we're all tuning into similar channels. So
Definitely. And I love too when there's those core principles that everybody seems to reiterate, because there can't just be one person that's a guide for everybody on their path, because that one person doesn't have a large enough cup to do that. So when you have the other life coach, yourself, Bruce Lipton, Rob Williams, all these different people, and they preach similar things, but with their own unique spin on them, whatever resonates to each individual is the guide on their path. And as long as they have those core principles, like you said with your brain acronym, as long as they have the core principles, whatever garnish they're putting on top of it that's unique to themselves, whatever you feel resonates vibrationally to yourself is the person that is going to help you along your path, because there can't just be one person that is going to be the guide to every single
absolutely.
person. So it's interesting how there's all those different core principles, and as long as you're in that arena, there's going to be one person that's going to resonate towards you and help you along the journey. And then when you're ready for the next step, there's going to be another person, and then another person, and another person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So years ago, I was learning about the whole brain methodology and
Mm-hmm.
how when we present or when we're talking to an audience, we may come across all different types of personalities. And to reach out to all these different personalities and relate to them, yes, it does require different people, different mindsets. And one of the things that I learned, and I'll demonstrate through an example, is that let's say there's an accident, a car accident. 4 reporters arrive at the scene of the accident. One reporter reports out on the chronology of what happens when. At this time, this happened. At that time, this happened. The next reporter arrives, and the person is talking about, oh, if we had this change in legislation, then these types of accidents wouldn't happen. And here's the vision for the future. Then the next reporter arrives at the accident and says, screaming mother, bloody child. Okay, all the emotional aspects, right? And then another reporter arrives, and that reporter is talking about reform or something. So recognizing that there's like different approaches. People see something, but they see it at different angles. And this is the beauty of Psych K, is that I've been actually able to help people transform perceptions of stressful or traumatic events by getting to that whole brain state. And so if, let's say, I put a mug in front of us and I ask you to describe it from your angle, and I'm describing it from my angle, and I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but we're both right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we can get to a whole brain state, we can see 360.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, there's also like different tools like the Enneagram, which is the 9 personality types. And we all have all 9 of these personality types. But at any given time, we may default to one of them. 3 are heart-centered, 3 are body-centered, and 3 are mind-centered. I actually believe that we have a strength in each of these areas.
How do you spell that? Enneagrams?
Yeah, Enneagram, Enneagram. And so I actually took a workshop on this back in like 2011 timeframe. Mm-hmm. And what I learned is that when we recognize what our Enneagram type is, that will also help us understand what some of our challenges are in life. For example, I'm an Enneagram type 3. I need to find value in everything. And so I'm also of the do mindset. And so when I come to peace, recognizing that I am valued for who I am, not what I do, that's one of my greatest life lessons. And so at this workshop, the Enneagram, I mean, you'll come across, okay, do 100 questions. Don't do that. There's like literally 2 questions. They're multiple choice, and you decide for yourself what type you believe is your primary type. And at this workshop, they handed out the sheets to us. And when we read what we believed our type to be, there were 25 people, and we all said that was spot on for us. And I like to use it to not only better understand myself, but also to better understand others and where they're coming from. I mean, this is beyond like Myers-Briggs. This is something that is deeper at our core, at our soul level. And so recognizing, okay, what are the challenges I'm facing in life? Recognizing challenges that others are facing in life. How can I communicate in a way that they can understand? And yeah. So Enneagram, and another one, Bank, BANK. And I can send you an email with all this information and links to it. But Bank, so this woman, she was a salesperson. She wasn't doing very well, and then somehow she did some reflection and introspection and came up with the Bank model. And she was able to increase her sales. Her sales skyrocketed. And then Stanford University caught on and helped her turn it into a system. And so, and it really talks about how when people approach buying or not buying decisions, they're approaching it from 4 primary mindsets. But then you can have all different combinations. So B for blueprint, the blueprint people, they're all about facts and figures. And if you're on time, you're late. You have to be like 15 minutes early to be on time. Okay. Then there's the action people. Things need to happen yesterday. They're all about, okay, let's get on with the program. Okay. And then there's the nurturing people. And they want to know that you're caring, that you have like greater motives. And then there's the knowledge people. And they're like the engineers. It's like, give me as much information as possible. And the blueprint people are all about processes as well. So when you're giving a talk to an unknown audience, it's good to touch upon all 4 areas. So you address the blueprint people. For example, blueprint people need to hear, oh, Psych K has been around for over 34 years. And it's helped over 100,000 people restore their well-being. And so that will help the blueprint people. Then they can tune in for everything else. And then the action people, they want to see, okay, what's the action plan? And then what's the call to action? And then the nurturing people, okay, how is this going to help ourselves, for others? And then knowledge people, that's where you fill in all the blanks and you're answering all their questions.
This sounds very similar to neuro-linguistic programming. With the different visual representation systems where there's auditory, there's visual, I believe there's an auditory visual, and then there's a kinesthetic. And how I know Dan Schinder was teaching me at one point how to craft captions that match every single one of those 4. so that when you read it, it'll hit on this internal representation system within the person to where they can better grasp it. Because there's certain things like you hear what I'm saying for audio, or do you see what I'm telling you for visual? Certain subtle things like that that really subconsciously allow the information to be consumed a bit easier for different people. So that's what that made me think of is NLP. And everybody seems to have their own, it's a core principle. Everybody seems to have their own little garnish they put on top of it. And it's depending on the context that you're using it, you may use the bank or the bake, you may use NLP, you may use, I forget what the other one's called. There's another one that Michael Burnoff was telling me about. And then there's the one that you just said with the Enneagrams, that there's all sorts of options. So it just makes things interesting. And you go into a situation and the worst that comes out of it is, okay, well, no, next time I know which one to use, or I know which one I need to look up more. So you're always learning, and curiosity is your best friend. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as to, okay, what, asking that very question, okay, well, what makes somebody tick, or what actually tunes somebody in, right? So it's interesting to try the different methods and see what resonates with different people. Yeah.
And there's also this Buddhist monk who I've talked to who has a very similar way, but his own garnish on reframing certain negative thoughts. In that he uses analogies all the time, that our mind is like an ocean, and at certain times with anger arising, you have different waves that are coming towards the shore, and that you recognize and say, I have these angry thoughts, or I have these sad thoughts. They are not me. These are just thoughts, and they're just waves in the ocean. And waves aren't perpetual. They crash and then they transmute into a nice flow, and that it just keeps going. These waves are not all the same. They're different. They could be positive. They could be neutral. They could be all sorts of waves. So just thinking to yourself that, hey, I have these angry waves coming at me. These are not me. These are just based off of an experience. I wonder why I was triggered to have these waves. And also, I know that they're going to crash and it's going to be transmuted, that it's not a perpetual thing.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Just going back to the visual, the kinesthetic, the auditory, communication skills. So something in Psyche that we do is a balance called rapport, verbal rapport and nonverbal rapport. And to recognize that some people are stronger in the visual language, and others are stronger in the auditory language, and others stronger in the kinesthetic language. And in the Psyche balance, we help up level all of it so that we can communicate and understand people who communicate with us, whatever their preference may be, so that then we're really honing our abilities to communicate and listen and relate, whether it's verbal, auditory, kinesthetic, and or any of the other senses.
I love that. And when you talked about the power of posture too, I remember from our first session, you had me do these certain things. And I almost want to say that it's a way to actually, I would say the exact same thing you said. It builds rapport. It makes you think that you're with the person in person when you're doing these certain exercises.
Yeah.
And just the thought of having this voice sort of leads you into a meditative state.
Yes.
Where when you go to a meditation class, you'll have the guy leading the class, guy or girl leading the class, and you're doing the movements, but you're also being guided by this voice, which then subconsciously it kind of builds that rapport. And so that makes total sense to me. Now I know why you use all these different postures.
Yeah, those were whole brain postures and movements. And that one in particular was the resolution balance.
Okay.
And it was a way to reprogram the subconscious mind through these
Uh-huh.
postures and movements so that you can get to that whole brain state. And so when you're in that whole brain state, what may have been a trigger in the past no longer is a trigger. It's like releasing that energy blockage
Uh-huh.
and being able to see something more like 360. Like when I conduct a transformation session for someone with severe PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got suicidal thoughts and whatnot, and after guiding them through whole brain postures and movements, they're at a whole brain state, which means they're creating peace from within themselves. And that energy blockage, whatever it may be, is no longer there. They've released the trigger, and so it's so powerful. And this is where, whether it's Psyche or some other method where we can get to that whole brain state, where our
Mm-hmm.
left brains, our right brains, all parts of our brains are fully active. And now we're like, okay, I may have limited thoughts by only seeing the situation from one angle, but now, oh my gosh, I'm more resourceful. I
Mm-hmm.
have more capacity to handle stresses that come my way. I recognize that I'm more capable than I really thought I was, because now I'm not just stuck on that one trigger. Now that trigger's been released, it's no longer a blockage in my path for success.
You've went inside the file cabinets of your mind. I always think of this image of Gandalf when he's at, I think it's Minas Tirith, and he pulls all the really, really old pamphlets out, and he's blowing the dust off, and he's going through them. And I'm thinking about rewriting all those files that were stored away from so long ago.
Yes.
So long ago. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it's doing. It's saying, hey, what are all those old files, those old programs that no longer serve you?
Mm-hmm.
And let's surface, let's address it, and let it not hinder you in
Yeah.
any aspect of your life. Because see, the subconscious mind is all about
Mm-hmm.
protecting ourselves. However, those old programs, it made certain connections that really no longer serve us. And
Mm-hmm.
once we recognize, oh, wait, that was a protection mechanism that was set in place. However, I'm safe. I'm here. I'm here in the present. It's okay. Yeah.
I actually helped out one of my students recently in her own, I'm not sure what the correct term for it. It's somewhat of a life coach. She really wants to be a life coach, and she has this company. I think it's called the Empower. It's similar to yours, actually. I think it's called the Empowered Hearts, something like that.
Well, mine is the empowered heart,
Heart. It's not. I'm thinking of yours. There's a different word
or
in there.
empowerment heart, possibly,
Somewhat
or
along
some
those
spin
lines.
on it.
There's
Okay.
some spin on it, and she doesn't even know you, so I'm sure she hasn't heard of yours before. But I was a part of her trial workshop to get used to doing these things. Is it's something that she loves to do, and she's only, I think, 20 years old. And we went through certain neurolinguistic programming exercises, and I was envisioning what the future holds. And I looked at this graph inside my head, and the y-axis was being more in tune with my divine path. I didn't use divine
Mm.
path, the terminology, but being more in tune with my higher self
Yes.
was going up on the Y, and that on the X axis, it was things that no longer serve me. So and I told her, I said, it's not as though I'm trending upwards. It's this inverse relationship where as I go more towards zero on the X axis and release all that baggage, I'm going higher on the Y axis to my divine path. And I
Love
told her those
it.
exact things. And I was like, wow, I never even thought about it that way. But as you release those things, you're going up, up, and up into your higher self. So,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And it's so true, because what you're also doing in the process is letting go of that baggage and making room for higher frequency energies to come in.
Yes.
When you're letting go of the baggage, you're letting go of the lower frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're tuning into higher frequencies. And every bag you drop, now you're lighter. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
lighter, you can float higher. And that's tuning into your higher self. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I just realized we didn't even mention the power of your room environment at home and how transforming that and releasing all these old things that no longer serve you can really help you reach the next level. Because that's exactly what I'm doing actually right now with my room. I have a bunch of old stuff that has no value to me right now, but I'm sure it has value to somebody else. So I'm just
Yes.
giving that stuff away because I don't want, like I told you when we talked about how you're working on something, but you're telling everybody all these different things and their energies are all coming into your path. When I'm releasing all these things in my room and I'm giving them away to other people who need it, I'm
Yes.
releasing that energy to say, hey, I'm going on this path. All these different obstacles that are kind of making me feel unsteady, I'm letting them go and I'm being more grounded in myself. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a beautiful friend. Her name is Victoria, and she
okay.
actually helped me with transformation of my space.
Ooh,
And
okay.
so I was able to let go of some furniture. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to move furniture around. And as soon as furniture was moved around in my space, it was like some energetic release. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa. And I felt it, and she felt it. And we're
Yeah.
both like, but we both felt it at the same time. And that was amazing. And then recognizing, okay, this is no longer giving me joy. This is no longer serving my purpose. It's time to give it to somebody else. And when I did, I
Mm-hmm.
filled up my car with a few times with things to bring to Salvation Army.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is so funny. I said to the guy at Salvation Army, I said, these things are really valuable. They've given me a lot of joy in my life, and I hope that they will give joy to someone else. And then I said, activating the violet flame for all these items, letting go any negative energies that may have accumulated, and now allowing these items to provide joy to whomever receives them. And I felt good about it. I think I gave perhaps a little too much information to the guy over at the Salvation Army, because I gave him a history of some of these items. That was also my way of letting go.
Definitely. And it's funny too, because I had I had found in my closet, I had a gallon bag of old Yu-Gi-Oh cards from when I was in elementary school. And one of my best friends is big into magic and all those things. So I told his girlfriend, I said, is he going to be home at a certain time? I have something to give him. And then eventually I figured out when he was going to be home, and I met him at his place and I said, I got something for you. He's like, what do you have for me? And I pulled out a gallon bag of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and his face just went all bright and he was so happy. And I'm like, I'm glad this bag of stuff that has no value to me whatsoever, I don't play those cards anymore, has so much value to him. Here you go. Do with
That's
it
awesome.
whatever you want, whatever feels great to you.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. Oh yeah. It made me feel pretty good too. It made me feel light, made me feel like I did the right thing. So
You know what? That's also a random act of kindness, right?
mhm.
So for ourselves, we saw it as, okay, this isn't serving me any longer. I'm giving this away. It's also a random act of kindness, which actually boosts all the positive hormones, and and so that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
And so when we perform a random act of kindness for a stranger, you know, that even holding the door open for someone, it may break them out of their funk. And
Yeah.
so,
Hmm.
yeah.
And I just realized this too as we're talking. He told me I've known him for years. He told me a long time ago that when he first, he grew up here, but he lived in New Jersey for a while. When he moved back to New Jersey, I just realized this. He sold all his Yu-Gi-Oh cards to give him money to move back from New Jersey. So yeah, he hadn't had any for a long time, and I'm sure that now I know why he was so happy that I gave it to him. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. He told me that years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's yeah. So now he's going to remember that for the rest of his life, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and it's a positive memory, and
Hmm.
that's amazing.
Yeah. It is amazing what bringing other people up does for everybody. And yeah, we're moving towards that new earth, that lighter feeling for everybody. So I appreciate everything that you're doing in your work, and I am learning all along the way. And I know that right now there's all these different variables that have to be figured out within ASU right now for where I work. Once they're figured out, one of the things that I've been talking about with my partner over there at ASU is that life coach that I told you about, that we actually had brought him in to do some workshops with the students. And one of the students last semester was doing her thesis on mindfulness and self introspection and self reflection. So they had this series where he partnered with her to help her along the way. And my partner over at ASU had brought up the opportunity of me and that life coach, who's one of my close friends, actually co-partnering in a boot camp, a mindset boot camp, to help
Mm,
these students along their way. And we're both big fans of Don Miguel Ruiz and Louise Hay with the Four Agreements and then How to Heal
mhm,
Your Life. And we were in the process of formulating a sort of a curriculum. It's not a class, but it's like a boot camp you volunteer to be a part of. And there's certain things that you have said and that he has said that, like I said before, core principles, the universal principles are the same, but they're just different ways of doing it. And it is so touching to see the transformations the students make along the way. Because like I told you during the podcast, they're in this transitory stage where they're leaving people for other opportunities. They're going different ways. People may say that, or people may not understand why they're not hanging out anymore, why they're not doing
mm,
this. There's no ill will, there's no negative energy. It's just the
mhm.
fact that all these doors are open for them,
Right.
and they feel overwhelmed because they feel like they have to put a foot in here, put a foot in there, put a foot in
Yeah.
here. And it's easing that transition when they have all this stimuli, because like you say with that waterfall exercise, there's so many different things that are constantly being thrown at your face, and you're like, wow, why do I feel this way? It's because we're so hyper connected. We have so many
Yes.
things going on us all at once that
Yes.
taking a step back and saying, hey, I know that there's all this technology that's for good and that it helps us be more productive, but at the same
Right.
time, it's making our space as simple as possible, as grounding as possible, and only using those technological pieces when they're needed. Because
Right.
I know growing up, when I had all these different knickknacks in my room, all these technological pieces, I felt so out of tune with myself, and that
Yeah.
I've got all this energy that
Yeah.
I don't know where to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
This is, I recognize we're bombarded with cellular, microwave, all these different radio frequencies, right?
mhm,
And so it's so important to be grounded. And I like to when I do that qigong exercise, the horse riding stance, I'm
mhm,
visualizing myself connected with Mother Earth. My legs are grounded, connected to the core of the earth, and and really like, okay, now I'm tuning everything else out and breathing into my heart and just being in that state of peace and calm. And then I can ask, okay, I've got all these choices before me. What is the best course of action? What is the best path to take? I know a lot of times we're like, oh, we got to do everything like all at once. And it's like, well, wait a second here. We may live a very long life. And if we live a very long life, we can do it all. But what is the best opportunity right now? What is the best use of my time and the best focus for me? What is the highest good for myself and all involved? And let me focus on this. Okay, something else may be a hobby, but may not necessarily be the primary focus. And then, all right, now, a year, 2 years from now, what do I want my next focus to be? And part of it is like pacing ourselves, and then also trust that on this journey, sometimes it's not as critical what path we take, but that we take a path. Mm-hmm. And then to discover in the process, okay, this isn't what I like to do. This is what I like to do. But I did make some really powerful connections or important connections that may help guide me to that next step in my life. And so I recognize there's a lot of things I like to do. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, what brings me joy? What brings me happiness? And it's okay sometimes to just take a break so I don't burn out.
Yeah. It's the power of just taking action and course correction.
Yes.
Just getting on the path, and you may get checked one way or pushed one way. Life may do that to you, but it's always finding that grounding space and correcting course and not being afraid of failing along the way. Well,
yeah,
learning. I shouldn't say failing, learning along the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you are doing some amazing work, and you're connecting with a lot of wonderful people. And that's fantastic. I wish you many blessings for health, wealth, and success and happiness. And so, thank you for this amazing opportunity. And when you're ready, I'd like to gift you a transformation session for core beliefs balance.
Ooh.
And that's the 13 pairs of statements to ensure that you have a strong foundation for accelerated results, and that any self-sabotage that may be in the way is transformed.
I appreciate that so much, Agnes, and I wish the exact same for you. And I also want to throw in that if you ever need a testimonial on any of these techniques that we do, anything along those lines, reviews, I'm more than welcome to write, talk, whatever medium, my heart out on the experience, and just help people by giving them a different perspective on what this experience may bring to them. So I'm throwing
Wonderful.
that out.
Wonderful. I will definitely take you up on that. So it may be a video, and it may also be written as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Whatever medium best serves you, whatever helps you along the way, I'm more than willing.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. You've been listening to the 5EP podcast with Alex Petrowski. Interviews and conversations to guide the genesis of personal development. If you enjoyed the show, share it with friends and family and on your social media. And feel free to send us your feedback. Until next time, thank you for listening, and live your 5 exclamation point life every day.